Welcome, Sharon. Welcome to the podcast of Humans of Globe Journey. And I'm glad to have you here today with us. And this is all about understanding you, understanding mindfulness, understanding what Oxford does, and giving a gist to our viewers that, how things flow in a corporate world along with the mindfulness as in sense. So, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you
I
for
welcome
having
you to
me.
the podcast.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you for
yes.
having me.
Great. So, I would start with something, which revolves around your start. So, how did you get into this when you started off? And what was the thought process of starting this journey of mindfulness?
I mean, it wasn't an intentional decision to work in the mindfulness field. A lot of the people I work with, they've used mindfulness for a personal benefit, and then they've decided they want to go and work in that field. And I'm a little bit different. I fell into it. The honest answer is because it was a job close to home, and I was like, yeah. So they were Bangor University were looking for an office manager in mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
business is my background, and it was close to home, and I thought I'll give that a go. I knew nothing
Okay.
about it, and I got there, and I thought this is really great. The people were great, the work was good, and I've just fallen in love with the field. So it was by
Mm-hmm.
accident, by accident.
By accident.
Yeah,
Great things happen by accident
I know.
sometimes. Right. Great. So, I'm talking to someone in this field for the first time. So, I am just assuming there are viewers who might not understand what actually mindfulness revolves around. So, if you can just give a, just about what exactly is the kind of background which you come from and where does mindfulness and Oxford Mindfulness Foundation works around.
Yeah. I think, even in the mindfulness field where there are people engaging with mindfulness, there's confusion. So I'm not surprised at all that people that are not engaging with mindfulness want to know more.
Right.
I think over the years, mindfulness itself, people think it's a course. Maybe we'll touch on this a bit later. Often when I'm speaking to workplaces and I talk about mindfulness, they think I'm asking them to have everybody sit on a cushion in a particular pose and spend an hour trying to clear their thoughts or something. And it's so not that. So yeah, mindfulness, there's loads of definitions if you look online, but it's about paying attention in the present moment with curiosity and care. And that's just one definition. There's loads, but it's not something you do, it's something you be or you are. It's a way of being. So being more mindful is mindfulness practices are one way to help you get there. So
Mm-hmm.
there's and maybe what's helpful is to think about mindfulness. There's two forms. There's what's called formal mindfulness, which is the meditation, which is sitting
Okay.
down, which is actively practicing mindfulness meditation. But there's informal mindfulness, and that's the bit that really excites me a lot. You know,
Okay.
if you were paying attention when you're walking to work, rather than thinking already about the meetings that you've got or how your
True.
bosses seemed a little, that
Right.
email you got last night was a little bit, looked, felt a bit angry from your boss. So you're worrying about it on the way. And actually you just walked past some really beautiful scenery and you've missed it.
True.
And if you were practicing informal mindfulness and walking, paying attention, then maybe by the time you arrived in the office, you'd be in a different space personally to deal with whatever it is that's ahead. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
informal mindfulness that I'm really excited about, and that's what I try and introduce in the workplace as well.
Okay. Okay. Great. I think exactly right for any corporate, worker around here that whenever we are trying to do something, before that we already have thoughts going on for that particular part.
Of course.
And this world has lots of negatives around us, right? So
Yeah.
rather than thinking of results, we always think what might go wrong, and that takes up a lot of time and a lot of part of our brain sometimes
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
completely forget about what we were going to actually do in that
Yeah.
particular moment.
Yeah.
So great,
How
I
many
think.
how
Yeah.
many times do you like plan a conversation in your head before you've got there? And really, you've
True.
no idea what they're going to say back to you after the first couple of words, but you've spent like 2 hours having a whole
Right,
conversation in
right.
your head. And
Correct.
for some people, those 2 hours could have been spent with their family or doing something, and you've just missed it. You've not been in the moment.
Right.
And so,
True.
yeah, well,
True.
we all
True.
do it. I'm not saying don't plan
Correct.
anything ever. I'm just,
Right, right. Though, does it links to procrastination as such? This particular part, like people procrastinate a lot, right?
yeah,
Rather than being in the moment, they actually procrastinate. And I think informal, you told me two of the forms, right? One is formal and informal. So
yeah,
the second one's actually exciting, as you told, right?
yeah,
It strikes a lot when you have just given me a single piece of example.
yeah.
It takes me through that the moments wherein I have been doing such things with me. So yeah, I think a great piece of advice I would say from the perspective of mindfulness, and we'll be able to understand more as we deep dive into the
Yeah,
conversations going forward.
yeah, yeah,
So, I understand, you might be talking to many people who are at different roles in different organizations, right? Through the Oxford Foundation as such. So, how does your day looks like? Like, what do you do during the day, and what is your free time like? Is it with family, reading books? What is your free time looks like, and what is your day planned?
On one hand, every day is the same, but on the other, it's with different contexts. So a typical day for me is, as the chief executive, I have to make sure the charity is doing charitable work and is sustainable. That's a
Mm,
primary kind of goals for me. But the charity's work is introducing the mindfulness and educating around
correct.
mindfulness. So
Right.
that's the same every day for me, and that usually looks like meetings with people, and then following up from a meeting. There's usually loads of action points,
Correct.
and preparing something, and then the day-to-day stuff around decision making and finances and budgets. But those
Right.
meetings with people, they're
Mm-hmm.
different every day. That's the exciting thing. Over the last
Correct. Correct.
month,
Mm-hmm.
I've met with people from the construction industry, from the hospitality, I've
Mm,
with members of a royal family, with the sporting industry, with the media industry, healthcare, university. So the meetings are always with a different
right.
sector, but
Mm,
everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants to help people with their mental health.
correct.
So
Correct.
it's kind of the same, and I'm doing the same thing, but with different people.
True. True. Right.
Yeah, and it's great. That keeps me where I am in a job. The diversity and excitement. So I really love that. Yeah. Um,
Right.
and my spare time,
True. Correct.
I have a family, so I have and I live in a really beautiful part of the world. So there's the beaches and the walks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and when I go out on the beaches and the walks, I really try to be there and enjoy the scenery. And I have to remind
Right.
myself of what it is I'm encouraging other people to do, because you walk and you run over those meetings or
True. Of
the
course.
plans for the next
Yes.
day, and actually it's so beautiful. So I just have to remind myself to do what I've just been talking about for the last 8 hours and enjoy the
It's
beach. Yeah,
difficult.
yeah,
It's actually difficult,
it
right?
is.
You
Yeah,
are talking to many people, and every person has their own persona to whom you have to kind of, let them come out and tell you, okay, these are the things in my life, and how you, Sharon, can actually put in that process which you really want to put
yeah,
in.
yeah,
And that's always there in your conscious, right? You cannot let
yeah,
your conscious go.
yeah.
And it's difficult to, but of course, the beaches help. The
Yeah,
beautiful,
they do. They do. And my
the
dog.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Yeah.
have a dog too.
I have a dog, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a big animal lover.
Oh,
But we talk about
nice.
diversity a lot.
Okay.
And I'm really aware that actually I might be saying the same things in all of my meetings. What is
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness? How can it help? But I don't mean different languages like, English to Welsh. I speak Welsh, I live in Wales, but the language and the words that I would use to describe mindfulness and how it could possibly benefit somebody, say to the construction chief exec I was just talking to, would be
Mm-hmm.
very different, but explaining the
True.
same thing to somebody in the sports industry, because the
True.
examples you give, so there's diversity in terms of population context that I think is
True.
really important. And I think that's why a lot of people if I went into a room of 100 people from all different sectors and said, who here would like to practice mindfulness? You might get a small number that raise their hands. And if I was to
Correct.
go in and say, who here would like to learn some tools or some techniques to, be more happy, to be paying more
Correct.
attention to what's going on, to be more kind, compassionate. I think
Right.
everybody in the room would raise their hands.
True. True.
And I think that's down to language and how mindfulness has been communicated over the last 30 or so years.
Correct.
I
Correct.
think it's been the same language that hasn't been relatable to the broader section of society. So I'm working really hard on that too.
Right. 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 Yeah. As I told you, right, multiple people, multiple personas. So diversity of people that you are already attending to. And like, what is your general approach? As you told, right, that the final result or the way you actually want to explain mindfulness is same, but it has to be different for different set of people, right? So, what is the kind of general reaction, or I would say, what is the general thought process of the people whom you meet? Are they really understanding the meaning of mindfulness, or they know they are still trying to learn techniques as such, rather than trying to actually evolve
Yeah.
through a process? How is it?
I think the majority of people I speak to at the moment, and I'd obviously like this to change a little bit, are people that are already aware of mindfulness. So they're in large organizations. Somebody in that organization has had a personal experience of mindfulness and has seen how it can help others in the organization. So they've reached out to me and we're having conversations, and hopefully they're in a position to make decisions that can impact the organization. But sometimes
Correct.
it's not a decision maker. Sometimes it's somebody that's asking me to help them with a pack of information that they can give internally to their decision makers.
True.
So often my first point of contact, I'm not having to explain mindfulness too much.
Okay.
um, there are different versions of mindfulness out there,
Okay.
lots. Some are focused on stress reduction, some are focused on addiction recovery, some are focused on cognitive therapy, which is the one so mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which was originally for recurrent depression. So I'll usually clarify which version of mindfulness programs they have
Mm-hmm.
been familiar with and make sure they're familiar with ours, and it is actually our version that they're interested in.
Okay.
But the first point of contact for me at the moment is usually aware of mindfulness. And it's how do we then support them to create a pack to introduce mindfulness to their organizations, really working closely with them for them to guide me on the language and the examples that would be helpful for their colleagues and their managers to understand the potential benefits. Um,
Right.
in an ideal world, what I'd like is to have more people that know nothing about mindfulness, be reaching out to
Mm-hmm.
me to say, tell me more. So if
Right.
if I had like a balance of people I'm reaching out to and people that are reaching out to me, I'm reaching out to the ones that know less, people reaching out to me know more, and I'd like there to be more people thinking, I
Correct.
don't know anything about it, but I'm going to go and ask. Yeah,
True, and it makes it more personalized for them because, as we told, right, that it comes with diversity, and for
yeah,
everyone who is from different background will have different things to work upon
yeah,
as in process. So making a pack for based on which stage they are standing at and what is the kind of results that you can make them achieve. I think that personalized approach works.
yeah,
So
yeah,
true.
yeah,
And what is it something that, post doing this sessions, right? Post being in this journey with you, what is it something, people can expect as an achievement? Like, what is it if, say, I have been working with you from last, 1 month, or say a span of 1 to 3 months. So coming to the timeline, what is your general, tenure wherein you want people to be associated with you? And at some point of time, I, as a person, will always realize, like, how I should be doing my work. But what is the general timeline that people should be associated with this particular program?
Yeah, it varies. Sorry, I'm not very good at giving you very quick, clear answers here. Am I?
No, no, it's correct, correct. It's true.
It's I mean, traditionally or for a long time, it's been an 8-week course. So
Okay,
if you look at the evidence base for mindfulness across many different sectors, the, up until fairly recently, a lot of the research programs have been around an 8-week program. So in all the different types of mindfulness, secular mindfulness programs I mentioned earlier, they normally have an 8-week course.
okay,
Um, so during that 8 weeks, people will learn. It's a mixture of group work and theory, and practice in the formal elements. So they learn about mindfulness, how mindfulness can help, and then they practice it.
okay,
And then there's in between the 8-week classes, they're 2.5 hours a week, and in between the 8 weeks, they are given some home practice to do to really build up their meditation practice on a formal basis, but
okay.
also some informal things. What we try and say is this isn't an 8-week course that you do, and we have a 3-week course too, and then we have a 12-month program, so we have a range, but it's not something you do and then tick the box, I've done that, my life's now going to be great.
True.
It's really about changing. My hope would be that after an 8-week course, if you got that email from your line manager in the evening and you thought that's a little bit short and I'm worried I'm in trouble, that actually what you've learned through your mindfulness course would be, I'm not going to make a judgment on that. There could be reasons why that email, maybe they're having quickly sending it, maybe so my hope would be that you may be less anxious about
True,
what's going to
true.
happen the next day, and you're not going to miss your lovely walk on the way into work, and you're not going to ruin your evening worrying and planning that conversation for 2 hours. You're just going
Correct.
to recognize that that's caused you a little bit of anxiety and get on with the moment that you have, which is family time or something.
Right, right. So, of course, so some one part is tenure, which is what I understand, but the other part is practicing it actually
Yes.
in the real life. So
Yeah.
when I have a mentor with me, or say I have a support member from Oxford doing it for me from for 8 weeks, it's easy. But when I actually leave this
Mhm.
course and I'm on my own, then if I practice it, that's where I start getting in results. I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
the part
Yeah.
which makes sense. But great, you have the home like the exercises given in between the courses. The
Yeah.
phone exercises are also there.
Yeah.
So
And
a mix
twice a
of
day.
multiple things.
Yeah, and twice a
Okay,
day, every day, we offer free meditation with one of our teachers
okay,
online. So we have, anybody that's got a mindfulness practice personally, often
okay.
from having done a course, can join. But yeah, it's really important that you don't tick the box and forget about it, that you have to keep
True.
reminding yourself of the lessons learned. And the good way to do that is through formal meditation.
Right,
Yeah, and
right.
there's follow-on courses, and there's groups,
Okay.
and there's programs. So yeah, there's lots of ways to
So
remain in touch with it.
in the program actually, so you have
Yeah,
your own environment which can be created post the course, like having these groups, having sessions, and which actually makes sense because people post COVID, things have changed a bit. People have been people, like you are working from home
yeah,
currently, right? You have
yeah,
been in remote, so I have been in that situation wherein we, other than work, you generally do not have much. So, of course, we have a family around,
mm,
but when we are not going to offices, when we are not socializing with people, then many thoughts circle up around, and we are not able to solve them professionally, and we form up a different kind of thoughts. Like, for example, you just mentioned, right? If you get an email from your line manager and you have not been in touch socially with this guy, so you cannot just form your own pre-created thoughts or pre-baked thoughts.
yeah,
And that's where mindfulness comes in, that how can you not think of something which has not happened and be in the moment to cherish what is there already.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
And
true, so
hopefully
true.
hopefully it fosters um other ways of being. That you're right. If you're in the office and that person came in and they'd been in a grumpy mood all day, you'd know when you got that email, look, they were in a grump today. I saw them twice by the coffee or whatever, and they're in a grump today. And you're right, if you've not
Correct.
seen them all day and then you just get this email,
True.
there's no context. But
There's no context.
I mean, what would be great, wouldn't it, if you were in a work environment where you felt able to send a reply that says, "Are you okay?" This
True.
it sounds like a little bit of, have I annoyed you? And that's the kind of leadership style that I really encourage, is for people to be
Correct.
able to ask those questions and to say that reads a little bit grumpy. Have I done something? Are you okay? And then it's like it's just out there, right? You're not worrying about it for
Right.
2 hours. So yeah, that
Correct.
that would be a
Right.
that would be a nice environment, I
True.
think.
Yeah, and that's where the leadership also comes in. Like, how are you driving it in your own teams? How is your team pursuing you as a person, pursuing the each team member in the whole, set of people who are there in the
Yeah,
organization?
yeah,
And if it is flowing from the top, say the mindfulness is with the top management, then it flows off in that same sense, right? So
yeah.
I assume you have been working with many leadership roles. So any specific story or any specific use case that you can tell our viewers, tell me like about that, okay, this is something which got implemented in an organization and that came in as a long-term result. Any specific use case or a story which comes to your mind from your experience? Anyone?
Maybe, but I guess I'd just like to clarify first. I might be the chief exec, but I am surrounded by I mean, I'm in, one of the field leading organizations teaching and training mindfulness. It is definitely not flowing from me. So, I'm surrounded by some of the best teachers and
Right,
trainers.
right.
I'm very lucky. There's not many of those organizations around. So,
Correct.
I agree. And, we've had conversations previously I have with colleagues around when you're introducing mindfulness into an organization, what's best? And I don't really like using these terms, but people will be familiar with them. The kind of top up or bottom, top down or bottom up approach. If you have a chief exec of an organization that's committed to mindfulness, but it's either not communicated properly or available properly or delivered properly, it doesn't really matter. People
Hmm.
might go, but it'll be tokenistic if they're not invested. But then if you have lots of people in on the ground level and they're really advocating for it, and then the chief exec might listen. So I think there's benefits of both.
True, true. It's
Um,
it's from the both the ends. Correct.
yeah, there's
Yep.
benefits of both. I mean, personally, I've spent all of my time since I've been introduced to mindfulness. I've spent all of my time personally in mindfulness organizations. So it's not like I've been in an organization that's not been mindful or had mindfulness and seen the transformation, but I've definitely spoken to some. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, there's lots of organizations that are introducing mindful champions or mindfulness champions. So I think HSBC are very public about their work with that. And I've been connected with them for over 10 years, and how
Okay.
they, yeah, have trained a number of mindfulness champions that are offering mindfulness sessions and drop-in sessions within their organization. And they've produced reports and about the impact of that and how it's made it, closer, more collaborative working environments. Um,
Right.
the other one would be how we've worked with the UK Parliament. So we've
Okay.
been offering mindfulness, and they have a cross-party parliamentary group. So it doesn't matter which political party you support or represent as a member of parliament, they all come together to practice mindfulness. And they've
Right.
said there that they see that actually their engagement with their colleagues, even though they're on opposite sides of political spectrums, they've reported being able to engage in those debates more mindfully, with more thoughtful, non-judgmental discussions.
Right.
I I know politics is a subject that we won't venture into, but that's been some of the
Correct.
feedback we've had for that area, that's been helpful for
Hmm.
them.
Right. Right. Great. I think uh, it's all about having, as you told me, right, is not just the top to bottom approach, it is bottom to approach, where like we can have any of this. If people are practicing it, they are actually ideating this idea and they're putting it to others, then it can flow around. And everyone in the team, everyone in the organization can have more enduring discussions, can have more open and diversified meetings over the topics rather than keeping a hold of what happened and having a preconceived notion
Yeah.
of the things, which gives out more solutions, right? It gives
Yeah.
you more solutions rather than just focusing on the problems. So,
Yeah.
of course, it's
Yeah.
important to identify the problems,
Of
but
course.
you people just, keep attached to it
Yeah.
and they do not openly move on to the solutions because they are probably, yeah, not mindful
Yeah.
about the great environment that they already have, which they can appreciate. So any three things like you gave at the start as an example, right? When I walk to my office, I have beautiful trees surrounded by me, but I might not just give
Mm.
a view of it. So any three things which we can practice in our daily lives, which makes us move towards mindfulness? Any three simple things? One is, of
Um,
course, having the view of the nature, the environment around us. But any two more things, if you can, I would take it as bonus. Anything that you say.
I mean, there's in the short course that we've got, it's a 3-session course, you learn 3 things. You learn around paying attention, how to be in the present moment, pay attention to what you're doing. One that I really like, particularly in the workplace, is responding, not reacting. Um,
True.
so, one of the 3 things, can we just take a minute to, could we, before, if something is not pleasant, so an email or an experience or something that's happening, could we take a moment and it could be literally, people don't have to realize you're doing it, but just can you take a moment to ground yourself and make a decision about how you're going to respond rather than the immediate reaction? So I would
Right.
encourage people to do that, to try and just take a moment before you react.
Correct.
And then the other key thing, which you've already touched about, is thoughts are not facts. And I remind myself of that a lot. Um, and that can be work or non-work, right? You walk down the street and you see somebody that you know, and you're like, hey, hey, and they just look right through you and totally ignore you. And you're like, oh no, I've upset them. What did I do? And your
Right.
thoughts are running away with you already. That's not a fact. They didn't see you. They're preoccupied themselves. So I
True.
would say find a way to ground yourself and respond. Remember that your thoughts are not always facts, and that's relevant in both workplace and workplace and personal life.
Great, great. I think I have noted this down here and
Yeah,
will be using this on my daily basis.
yeah,
Uh, it's great that, we are talking about something which is physically not visible, right? It is something all here. It's
yeah,
all about your mental health, and which is, of course, required at our personal lives, in our professional lives. And through Oxford Mindfulness as a foundation, you people have been working around this, and I would say touch basing. It's not about only the people whom you are consulting, it's also about the team which he has impact on, right? Or
yeah,
he or she has impact on.
of course.
So you are touching multiple people
Hmm.
because of the whole thing which a person or as an individual makes out of a decision, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So this is very much motivating, Sharon, I would say. And I also understand that there's an application of the foundation, right? A mobile app.
yeah.
So
That's
if you
fairly
can tell us
new.
something, if you can tell us something about this mobile application and how does it work? Is there something you would give us as a small brief about the app?
Yeah, and we were approached the beginning of last year, so the beginning of 2024, by an organization, a not-for-profit in America called the Visual Snow Initiative.
Okay.
So visual snow syndrome, which was new to me, is it's a neurological brain condition. So you may start seeing like snowdrops or a visual impairment. And for some people, it
Okay.
just happens all of a sudden. Some people, they may be born with it, but it affects your vision. So in various ways, but it's called visual snow because some of the conditions represent snow kind of falling in front of your
Right.
eyes. And there's no known cure for it.
Okay.
And the founder of visual snow syndrome was not born with it, and suddenly one day there was a problem with her eyes, and she was back and
Okay.
forth to the eye hospitals, and they were saying there's nothing wrong with your eyes. Um, it turned out they finally diagnosed her with visual snow syndrome. So it's a brain condition that affects your eyes. So they worked really hard to try and find solutions to it, and they funded a mindfulness-based cognitive therapy study. So the version that we use in the
Okay.
UK, and the study found that mindfulness helped with the neurological brain condition that
Okay.
improved the visual snow syndrome.
All
So
right.
yeah, I mean, amazing news for that community
True.
that suffer. They
Correct.
approached us and said, "Would you work with us on an app for the visual snow community?" And I was like, "These are the conversations." I was like, "Hey, of course I will, but please can we have it for the world and not just the visual snow community?" And they were so
True.
generous. They were like, "Absolutely." So they
Right.
funded the app for us. Um,
Okay. Okay.
so it's great. So it's a free to use app. There are some elements, the kind of fuller packages that there's a subscription, but
Right.
I wanted to make sure that we could give as much away as possible free, but whilst acknowledging there's costs to run an app and we're a charity. So
True.
that's what that covers.
Right.
But there's introductions to mindfulness. There's the short self-paced course we talk about, the 3 sessions. There's hundreds
Mm-hmm.
of meditations in different languages for exactly what you spoke about earlier. I've done the course. How do I maintain my practice of mindfulness? Well, you download the
True.
app and then
Right.
and then you can just, and it's sectioned. So I want some help with sleep, or I'm struggling with anxiety, or so you can say, yeah, these are the categories I want to look at. Um,
Okay.
and then there's podcasts and other things that we do in the charity are also available through the app. But this is the
Okay.
exciting bit for the workplace is,
Mm-hmm.
and these are the workplaces I'm talking to, the 3 session course, we can work with organizations to tailor that. So we spoke earlier about the language being appropriate. So I'm
Right.
currently working with a large construction company and a large hospitality company. And the hope is that they will make this app accessible to all of their employees, but within the app, there'll
Mm-hmm.
be a section for their company. So when they
True.
click on it, those construction workers or the hotel workers, the cleaners, the chefs that are working in that hotel will really feel like they're reading something that's relatable to them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Correct.
examples given will make sense. And I think organizations also like it when they can see it's for their people, it's branded
Correct.
for them.
Right.
So
Right.
that I think is a really exciting development in the app space for us, is that we can really work with organizations to do that.
True. True.
Yeah,
Okay, great, great.
yeah,
So it's as you know, right? It was firstly only about the visual snow community, but having an idea to pull it to the world is amazing because you can
yeah,
help as many people who have the phones with
yeah,
them. And having a section, complete different section based on the company's industry or about their own kind of work is an amazing idea because, as you told, it is more personalized. If
yeah,
I am from construction industry, I would really like to have that kind of content driving me towards
yeah,
mindfulness and I'll be more relating to it. So
yeah.
great initiative, I would say. And trust me, I've heard visuals know for the first time myself with
Mhm.
you over the call. And this is, and without any cure as such, and having mindfulness, helping this community, it's a great
Yeah,
initiative and a great news, I would say,
yeah.
for the community members as such.
And I'm sure,
Nice.
many of the humans of globe community, might know somebody with visual snow or might themselves have it. So on the
Right,
app,
right.
so it's simply Oxford Mindfulness in the App Store, but on the app, there's a whole section dedicated to visual snow and how
Mm-hmm.
how it impacts on mental health and how it can support And the plan is, and I'm already speaking with other organizations, but can we have a similar section for people with Parkinson's, people with cancer, people with
True,
diabetes? There's research around mindfulness in all of these health areas. So the
true,
hope is
true.
that we will partner with those organizations too, and then those
Mm-hmm.
communities can go and get more information as well. We're working with a deaf mindfulness teacher who's signing all of it for us so that the deaf community can actually engage in mindfulness without having to hear the instruction.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. So different kind of people who can actually benefit from this, and having an application around is a very great part of reaching out to many people whom you cannot reach physically.
yeah,
And the vision which you just mentioned of not why only visual snow community, right? Why not cancer? Why not any of the symptoms which someone is carrying, and they can be helped. Like it is kind of a self-help application which can work, and you can have experts from your end who can then come into the picture and guide, create a walkthrough, or create a path for a particular community.
yeah,
So I would
yeah.
surely look
Uh,
forward to this application.
Thank you.
I
I
can,
think,
we can have, yeah,
sorry, I just want to jump in with, just to be, I don't want it to feel like I'm saying mindfulness is going to cure everything and
of
make,
course not, of course,
it's not a panacea. I mean, it's not gonna, mindfulness isn't right for everybody. But what we want is it to at least be accessible so people can
true,
experience it. And the app is very purposefully a light introduction to mindfulness. It's really important that people that want to do a course or experience mindfulness in a bit more detail do engage with a trained teacher. And you can find trained teachers. There's various listings. We have one on our website where you can find a trained teacher. So this is really just that kind of front, that wider societal, vision of just letting people
true.
know that there's the potential for something to help you here. But it's really important that you engage with it carefully and with other people. So I just want to jump that in case someone's listening and they go, oh great, mindfulness is going to, cure my illness.
True,
It's
true.
not. But it's going to help your relationship with it.
Correct,
Um,
correct.
I was in Korea working with a team that are supporting people with insomnia, and was
Mm-hmm.
speaking to them, and saying that mindfulness is not going to cure your insomnia, but it could potentially change your relationship. So, and the example I gave is one we spoke about earlier. So if it's 9 p.m. and you're winding down thinking about bedtime and you suffer with insomnia, a lot of people spend the 9 p.m. to maybe 11 p.m. when they go to bed worrying about the horrible night they're going to have because they're not going to be able to get any sleep.
True.
And that thoughts are not facts. That's not, they might be able to get some sleep tonight. They're thinking they're not. So that's the first thing. And then they've also probably missed out on some quality time with their family in the evening, worrying about that. So it's not going
Worrying
to
about it.
fix insomnia, but it might change your relationship with it. That might improve the quality
Relationship.
of your life. Yeah.
Correct, correct, right. Of course, like when you're dealing with something which is, which is a disease which is serious, and having a mindful way to perceive it, to deal with it,
Yes.
takes a lot of courage, right? And having a, I would say, having some resources over a mobile application can be helpful.
Yeah.
So, and if you engage with it, it is all about, I understand it is not just reading it, it is also about how you engage with that kind of content. And as you told me, most of the sections are also free, and there are some of the packages which come up. So it gets out the benefits to whole society as such. And we all know people who need it, right? There are people who really are going through a lot in their life. And why not? Why not have something which actually creates a change? So grateful that this
Yeah.
application has come up.
Thank
Um,
you. Me too.
Yes, I would like to understand more from you. I can talk a lot about how mindfulness carries over your own lifestyle.
Mm.
There are a lot of things which we can jump on to. Though I am really grateful as in Humans of Globe team to have you on board. How was
Thank
your
you.
expression to come on Humans of Globe as, one of the admired person in that industry. What was your thought on getting featured?
I mean, it was great to be asked. It's I actually was going to say no, because you know um I love being in the background with a spreadsheet and a proposal, so I was speaking to one of the trustees of the charity and said, I've had this opportunity. um it's an honor. I was really pleased. I said, I'm going to say no, and they're like, why? And I'm like, because so it was lovely. My
Great.
role is very supportive of the community, and I'm
Hmm.
not I'm not often the one up at the front. I'm not the trainer that's standing in the front of the room. I'm not the
True,
researcher presenting the research. I'm the person that pulls all these little things together to make it happen.
true.
So I was uncomfortable but grateful. And I recognized
True.
that. I paid attention to the fact I was uncomfortable, but I was really pleased that we were able to communicate something. It was skillfully done by you and your team, and I was grateful for that. Thank you.
No, we are glad to have you on board. Great that you were mindful about this. And before just closing this down, any piece of advice that you would have given to a younger yourself, like younger self of yours, and to our audience, like any piece of advice
Hmm.
that you would give on before we close down this session today, Sharon?
If piece of advice means do something different, then I'd probably say no, but only because if did something different by different advice, then I wouldn't be where I am now. And, I'm really grateful to be here
Yeah,
where I am.
right.
Um, I think that, but in terms of more general, I think people, and myself included, up until really kind of got into the mindfulness field, paid it paid attention to physical fitness. I'm by no way I was an active gym person. I just want to clarify that. But it was acceptable to me and everybody else, and to pay attention to your physical health. Going to the gym in my lunchtime, on the rare occasions I did, people would say, "Good for you." I wish I would do that. And my piece of advice would be take care of your mind as well as your body. And if we could have a society that at a lunchtime, if you said I'm going to the gym and I said I'm going to just take care of my mind for my half hour, that people didn't look at me like I was strange.
True.
For it to be, if I went and sat in the corner for half an hour and meditated with a full meditation practice over lunch, people would think I was odd. If you went and did a little bit of exercise, they'd say good for you. And if we could change
True.
that, I would be very happy.
Great. I think this goes a long way. There are insane impacts which are getting created out of this whole process as such. This was not thought of as an industry, or this was not thought of as an practice which can come into corporates, but this is
No,
equally important, which I have realized,
yeah,
of course, getting in insights from you. And how can this be helpful to people in their individual as well as professional life? I am taking up all this three points that you have mentioned for mindfulness.
yeah.
I am walking, so I generally would take a cab and I'm walking tomorrow to the office.
There you go.
So great. Yes,
You
yes,
should you
I'm
should come
starting
on
it
a
off.
course. We'd welcome you on a course. If you're interested, you are welcome to join one of our courses.
Yeah, I'm surfing this out, post this
Yeah,
call. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through this application. I'm going to this
good.
website m- more from individual perspective
Yeah.
rather than from humans. Because I have my own thoughts created around it from you yourself. When you hear from people who have led this as a journey, it's more impactful. And that's what I
Mm.
told you at the start. I'm glad that I have an opportunity to talk to you in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And it went great.
Thank you.
I would really like to have another session someday over the application once you progress, like if you have more sections
Yeah.
added there. and we can have, people who are into the same thought process as
Mm.
you are helping around. And that would be next time. But for today, thank you so much, Sharon,
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you
Thank you.
for
Maybe
being
next
here.
time I can ask you some questions of whether you integrated mindfulness into your and how it was. So we can have a few questions each next time.
Sure, we have a follow-up session, of course, coming up then. And to all the viewers out here, thank you for watching this. Thank you for thinking about the mindfulness, and go up and check up Oxford Mindful Foundation. We'll be having the links of both Sharon's profile and the foundation's profile. You can download the application as Sharon has mentioned, and I'll be seeing you over the next session at Humans of Globe. Thank you so much for subscribing us. If you have not subscribed, please click that icon to subscribe and put up that bell icon also. Thank you so much for having on the session, Sharon. I think we have completed.
Okay.
Yeah.